That one, I hope we can keep it open. Yeah.
Through the estimate, I will hold on All right, I will put you in touch with them.
Okay, thank you.
As a staff member, I'm not allowed to. But I can.
Is this too hot for people? Perfect. Perfect? Really?
My cane's over here.
It's cool.
Okay.
I put it to Jimmy.
So I'm Roberta, I'm the moderator. Yes. Yes.
Oh, that spot's my wife. Sorry.
Yeah, because as soon as we record and everything, so I do need to minimize. Well, I mean, people, people will watch it later.
Oh, the water's probably over there. And here? Hey.
Yep, I'm heard. I mean, you could ask, I don't know if it picks up, I can't remember if it picks up just the blank there
Oh, it's just that.
Make sure you have your ringer and media.
Ringers. Let's make sure all sound goes on.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Simpler. I like the whole policy to that. So, hey, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. So, what's your call? Do you want to start? You could wait a little bit longer, but maybe not too much.
Not too much longer.
Yeah.
As soon
I
as
can do
you.
it exactly 6:05.
Okay. Yeah, that clock's a little fast. Yeah, just because, I mean, we're not, the longer we wait, the less questions we're going to be able to ask, for audience questions. Okay. You tell me what? He's actually at the table. So we got all 6 people. Okay.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Good evening. My name is Shoshana Wechter, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the Ann Arbor area. I welcome you to tonight's forum featuring candidates for Ypsilanti Community Schools Board. The candidates will be on the ballot in the November general election on Tuesday, November 6th. The League of Women Voters of the Ann Arbor area is pleased to be sponsoring these forums in partnership with the Ypsilanti District Library and the Riverside Art Center. The League is a nonpartisan grassroots organization that does not support candidates or parties, but we do take stands on issues that we have studied. One of the League's important goals is to assist voters in making informed choices at the polls, and thus we bring you tonight's program. Volunteers from the League of Women Voters of the Ann Arbor area are managing tonight's forum. Our moderator this evening is Roberta Wojcik-Andrews, who will explain the process from here.
Welcome, everyone. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves. After introduction, I, as the moderator, will ask the candidates a series of questions developed by the League of Women Voters. Each candidate will have an opportunity to answer questions, given 2 minutes for each answer. The order of candidates called on will rotate in order to give each candidate a chance to answer questions first, last, and in the middle. We have a timer who's going to be holding up signs, so if you see the candidate pause, if you can try to, that's because they're probably getting a little distracted for a moment, knowing that they have to finish up. After league questions, there will be a chance for audience questions. If you wish to ask a question, please sign up on our sign-up sheet if you haven't already. Given we have 6 candidates, we're going to try to have as much time for questions afterwards. And in terms of the candidates, if you don't have to use up your whole 2 minutes, if you can answer the question concisely in less time, that will leave more time for audience questions. For audience questions, Shoshana will call you up to the podium here. There's a microphone here. All questions should be addressed to the candidates and all candidates. So please think now to formulate your question so it's broad enough to address all of the candidates rather than singling out 1 or 2 candidates. It's not a debate. There's going to be no response time for you once you ask your question. And once you ask your question, if you could just step aside from the microphone, we'd appreciate that. If for some reason by the time you get called up for questions, your question is asked, please just let Shoshana know that you can pass on your question. And in order to make sure we give the most amount of time to candidates to speak and answer the questions, please save your applause until the end of the forum. And with that, we'll start with introductions. And we are starting with Ellen Champagne on the far end, or I should say the left end of the table, and we'll come across this way.
Hi, everyone. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. First, I want to say thank you for the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this, and thank you to everybody who's in the audience. Participating in these kinds of events is really important, and this is almost as important as voting, so thank you all for coming to hear the candidates. I have been on the school board for 4 years here in Ypsilanti, and I am running again because I really believe in our district and our city. I really want things to continue to get better. We've done a lot of things in the last 4 years that have been really good. We still have a long way to go, and I want to help in that process. So that's why I'm running.
Thanks also to the League and to the Library and Riverside Art Center for making this forum possible and getting voter education out there. My name is Gillian Gainsley, and I am running for school board fundamentally because I love Ypsilanti. And I think that putting my time and energy into building a great school system is the best way that I can possibly support this community. I work at the Ypsilanti District Library, so because of that, I have a lot of opportunities to spend time in our schools, to work with our students and teachers, and I also get to work closely with the organizations and the funders and foundations that support education in our community. YCS has been building a lot of great partnerships, but I would really like to see more community partnerships and more opportunities for all of those those organizations to get more engaged in our schools and really bring the community together around supporting our students. I just finished a 5-year term on the AATA board, where I was Ypsilanti's first representative. And in that role, we were very successful in expanding transit by 40% and really expanding transit pretty dramatically on the east side of the county in Ypsilanti and Ypsilanti Township. The biggest thing I learned, in addition to kind of how to get things done in government, was how to be a responsive representative and listen to constituents and help people address their problems and figure out how to work within the agency to get their issues addressed. And so that's the kind of experience that I'd like to bring to the school board. I'm the daughter of 2 30-plus year Michigan school teachers, so I really respect educators and value their role as professionals. And I'm also a mom. I have 2 students, 2 young kids who both attend YCS. My daughter's in preschool. My son is in early intervention special ed, which is based at Perry. My son Alex, if all goes well, according to plan, he's going to graduate from YCS in 2034. So I'm really in it for the long haul, and I really value the importance of making sure that every kid gets a great education now and well into the future. Finally, I have the endorsements from the Washtenaw County Democrats, the Huron Valley Area Labor Federation, and also from our Ypsilanti Teachers Union and support staff unions. And I hope that you'll agree with them that I'm a great candidate, and I look forward to working with all of you to make our schools better. And
good afternoon. My name is DaQuann Harrison, alumni of Ypsilanti Community Schools. Alumni at Ypsilanti Community Schools, class of 2017. I'm running because Ypsilanti, City of Ypsilanti is my heart and my life, born and raised here, a part of Huron Schools, Ypsilanti Public Schools, and now a graduate of Ypsilanti Community Schools. I've been fortunate enough to be inside the schools for the last 3.5 years. As a peer specialist and so forth, and having the relationships with the students, the families, the staff and administration. I feel I'm not the expert, but I know what needs to be done to move our district forward in the fastest way possible, so that way YCS can be great again, and really running to get rid of our debt, so that way we can become more progressive and don't have to continue losing teachers and people because of our funding and so forth. So that's where I'm at.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I am very glad to be here tonight and appreciate the invitation to spend time with you this evening and share a little bit about who I am and answer your questions. So I'm a wife and a proud mother of 3 children. All of my children have attended schools in Ypsilanti Community Schools. It was Ypsi Public when they started, since kindergarten. I hold a doctorate in education from Eastern Michigan University, a master's degree in social work, and a bachelor's degree in psychology. I have always worked with vulnerable, oppressed, and underserved populations. That's what my professional career has been dedicated to. I've always been a tireless advocate for those who are gripped by social injustices, such as poverty, educational inequities, and really has been kind of my life's work is to really advocate for those who are voiceless and those who need support. I am currently the vice president of Ypsilanti Community Schools. I also volunteer in a number of different organizations throughout the community. So I'm very integrally, committed to this community. I've been here for many, many years. I'm very active. I've always been very engaged and very involved. I chose to run for the school board because I am really passionate about educational excellence. I'm passionate about educational equity and ensuring that every decision that the school board makes is made from a lens of equity. I understand that the health of a school district really is intrinsically tied to the health of a community. And so a strong school district means a strong community. The two go hand in hand. If reelected as a school board member, I will continue to focus on improving academic achievement, attracting, hiring, and retaining excellent teachers, increasing access for students to take advanced placement and honors courses, improving attendance rates, student supports, engaging student voice, and reducing rates of discipline that disproportionately impact students of color. I have always remained firmly grounded in my purpose as a school board member, and my vision remains clear. I know that my service on the board is to positively impact the lives of students academically, socially, and emotionally, to serve the community, be good stewards of the district's resources, retain and attract the most talented staff, set and adopt policies, and hire and evaluate the superintendent. I've been endorsed by the Teachers Union and the Michigan Democratic Party. Thank you.
It's on.
Thank audience for participating, for the organizations that set it up, and for the other candidates that are here to put their name in the ring. I'm a transplant from up north, Alpena, Michigan. Moved here in '65 to finish my education at Eastern Michigan University because it offered me an opportunity to become a librarian, which I wanted to do. Got my master's and my bachelor's in education in being a librarian, my master's in secondary curriculum. Got out of college and spent the first 3 years working for the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Prisons. Emphasis, working. I wasn't a member of the population. Got a tremendous experience. The relationship of people, that their education level probably could be directly related to why they were into the situation that they were in. And I've never forgot that. Reading is key. It doesn't make any difference who you are, where you are. Reading is absolutely key to success. I'm a communicator and a listener. If you don't have listening skills, the best communication in the world is tough. But I do believe that there's a big road ahead of us. And finances, retention of staff and students is key in those areas. We've got to communicate with the public and tell the public we're here to stay, and we're good.
Hello, I'm Tyler Weston, and I'm running for Ypsilanti Community Schools Board. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and I also want to thank Riverside Arts Center for providing the space, League of Women Voters for putting this on. In addition, I want to thank Riverside Arts Center for opening up this whole building and this whole space to young people. This building's really transitioned a lot in the last couple of years, and there's a lot more activities here for young people going on. I just want to give them kudos for that, and thank you so much for allowing us to use this space. So I'm here today because I'm inspired by young people, inspired by the young people in Ypsilanti. 10 years ago, I started volunteering through the YMCA, running after-school programs at Adams Elementary, and I just fell in love with the kids that we have in our community. And I progressively wanted more and more for them. I saw where they were coming from. I realized that I had a lot of privilege from my background, and I just wanted to create the best opportunity I possibly could for them. So 10 years ago, that journey started, and it just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. Over the course of the last 10 years, I've created programs or been a part of programs that have served over 1,000 young people here in Ypsilanti, and it's been awesome work. They've also inspired me to start my business here, which I started 8 years ago as Ypsilanti real estate guy, and now I'm the top real estate agent in our community, and I know our community in depth, and I've sold houses in every neighborhood and been in and out of every house in our city. That all starts from my inspiration of the young people. I wanted to spend time with them. I want to try to create a better community for them. In the last 3 years, I've got to work with Ben Edmondson, our unfortunately just left superintendent, on quite a few very, very big projects for our community. The first one I got to do is to be the chairperson for the Facilities Advisory Board, where we decided as a community what to do with our occupied and vacant schools, to put them to the highest and best use, to sell some buildings, and to possibly move some children from one building to another. It was a long and arduous conversation we had over the course of 3 weeks, or 3 months rather, and we did have a set of recommendations that the board approved. It was a lot of work, and it got me thinking more and more about how important it is to know our buildings and know our children. A year after that, I got to be on the committee to create Ypsilanti International Elementary School, which went from an idea to now one of the top-rated elementary schools in Washtenaw County. I'm very proud for those two achievements. And additionally, I got to, with the YMCA and the Sheriff's Department and Ypsilanti Community Schools, create East Washtenaw Basketball League, where we provided opportunities for young people to recreate on Friday nights in a safe environment with mentors. Thank you so much all for being here. I really appreciate you, and thank you all to the rest of the candidates as well for running.
Okay, the first question will start with Gillian Ream Gainsley, and we'll move to the candidates left in the background. What is your position on the Ypsilanti Community Schools Sinking Fund millage, and as a board member, what alternatives will you pursue if it fails to pass?
Thanks. We're starting with what I think is probably the biggest question at the moment. So as folks know, the YCS has a sinking fund millage on the ballot in November. And that millage, in large part, I'm for it. I will state that. I'm for the millage because the millage is really necessary to fill some significant gaps in the district's budget. And what I would like to be able to say is, I think that most of the folks at this table would agree that what we need to be doing with our budget is supporting our teachers, having smaller classrooms, and supporting education and our buildings. Unfortunately, due to Michigan law, you can't put those things on the ballot. What you have to put on the ballot is capital investments. And so the sinking fund millage would replace roofs on the buildings, replace parking lots, do some really essential things, because essentially we've been deferring maintenance on all of these projects. And so I do support it. The biggest reason that we need the millage is that there's a debt, and the millage is approximately the same size as the hole that the debt is leaving. And so I think it's essential for the district. If it does not pass, I would say that one place that we could look for savings is in transportation. Our district spends more than most other districts per student on transportation, and since I come from a transportation background, I have some ideas on how we could save money there. Thanks.
So I'm definitely for the sinking fund millage, and I said that because our district needs every dollar at this point. And if you all remember the reason for the merge, we merged because we were losing students, and both districts were in desperate financial shape. That is the reality now of YCS. We're losing a lot of students to school of choice and so forth, and also in desperate need of finances from all our teachers that don't have the technology that they need to properly run a classroom and do work. We got ceilings falling in inside of our schools. Teachers aren't getting paid enough and so forth. So a lot ties into that. So that's my take on that. Oh, I'm sorry. Other part, and if it fails, that just means we have to go harder, whether elected or not. Advocate, especially on the state level, and demand our elected officials and bring pressure and accountability to them to bring more money to our district.
So the answer to the first part of the question is I absolutely support the sinking fund and think it is absolutely necessary that voters go out and support this particular issue on November the 6th. The district currently has a debt retirement payment that we incurred when we merged. When Willow Run Community Schools and Ypsilanti Public Schools merged, we incurred a big debt. And because of that debt, we are on the hook for paying a set amount, which is upwards of $2 million per year. And that really hurts us in a lot of ways, because a lot of the money that we want to pour into the classrooms, into paying our teachers more, we have to first make that payment to the state. So it's critical that this passes because they're building infrastructure updates. their technology updates that we can use this money for. Our teachers, our students need more technology in the classroom. Many of our buildings are older and they're in need of repair. There are capital improvements that need to be made. So this is an important millage that we hope, well, the sinking fund, we hope it passes. If it does not pass, we hope that we have a second opportunity to place this on the ballot the next time this is able to be placed on the ballot. If that doesn't pass, I think that the one thing we need to look at is, and I say this a lot, is really looking at being aggressive about increasing our enrollment. Our biggest expenditure in the district is personnel. That means most of our budget goes to staff and salaries and benefits. Our biggest stream of revenue is our per pupil funding. So increasing our revenue really is dependent on how many students we can continue to attract and retain in our district, because that is the biggest stream of revenue for Ypsilanti Community Schools. So I hope that we can get aggressive, and if this does not pass, in making sure that we are attracting and retaining students in our community, because over 40% of them are not attending schools. Students who live in Ypsilanti Community Schools District are not attending school in this district, so we need to change that.
Basically, everything that Dr. Hawkins just said, I don't have to repeat it. 67% of the district's budget goes to personnel. We need to get the students back into the district. That's where the student money comes from. Student money going to Ann Arbor, it might be nice for Ann Arbor or Lincoln or Milan or wherever, but it's not nice for us. We're a great district. We've been here a long time. I've been with the district 41 years. I know that it's a great district. We don't need to look elsewhere. We need to have the people that live in Ypsilanti bringing their students to Ypsilanti. Or please explain to us why you do not want your student to go to school in Ypsilanti.
So it was difficult for me when this was proposed, because one thing that I know, because of my profession in real estate, is that higher taxes really force up rents a lot of times, because if a landlord gets a higher tax amount, they usually just pass that amount on to their tenant. In addition to that, there's a lot of people in our community that are on fixed incomes across the spectrum, and higher taxes affect their real lives. So it's hard for me in very general terms to just always say we should just have more taxes, have more taxes, have more taxes, because I might be able to pay more taxes, but not everybody can afford to pay more taxes. So after thinking about this issue really in depth and over a long period of time, and being extremely familiar with the condition of our buildings as the chairperson for the Facilities Advisory Board, and somebody who's just been in the buildings multiple times for a lot of years, I am now in favor of it. The reason that I'm in favor of it is I feel that we can use this millage to leverage. So something that I'm dynamic at in my personal life, as well as when working with the schools, is creating partnerships. So if we can take this millage and have this specific amount and leverage it for a matching amount from another entity to help maybe bring some recreation into east side of our county, that might be nice. Maybe make some improvements on these buildings that bring new programs in, that bring new students in to our district. Instead of just asking for them, bringing something to them that makes sense, that will get them in the door. This allows us to leverage those situations and possibly create a better school district for all of us. So reluctantly, I'm in favor of this. I don't want to tax more people. I think it's overall hurtful, but I feel like this could be a major benefit for us in our specific situation we're in right now.
I am also in favor of the sinking fund. We have made there's been a lot of belt tightening over the last several years. Even before the consolidation, both districts were operating kind of very lean, and in the long run, that actually hurts you because you don't have money for anything. And so the idea of getting a lot of students back is wonderful, but that's really hard to do without any money. the best way to get the students back is to have a really good district and have teachers that are making our students succeed. We need money to have for the teachers. So this money that we're using right now, as I can't remember who said it, I think it might have been Celeste, about the deferred maintenance, or whoever said it, is totally true. We've put off so many important things because they come out of the general fund, and that's what the only source we have to pay teachers. So this is really important to pass. And I'm not excited about it either. I live in the city, so I pay city taxes, and this is not something that I'm personally super excited about, but I do think it's very necessary. If it doesn't pass, I think we need to more aggressively pursue more of the partnerships that Dr. Edmondson started to get going, and he successfully got some of them, but we need to pursue more of those. And we definitely need to look at, we're still kind of overburdened with property. We don't need all that property. So we need to think about how we can get rid of that in a lucrative way. And then there's also grants, which is tricky, but that could tide us over for a short term. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, everyone. The next question will start with DaQuann Harrison, still going left, and then back around. It seems like an appropriate question to ask next. How can the district attract some of the 50% of students Ypsilanti Community Schools loses to schools of choice while still equitably serving the needs of those who have remained in and rely upon the district?
My answer is very short, but real. But that's bringing more programs and resources to our district that makes our district more enjoyable to be in, that is more pleasing to our families and our students and staff to stay there. And like I said at the last forum, parents are in the mindset, hey, my kid is not getting the education that I want her or him to get here, but they go up the street to Arbor schools or Belleville or Lincoln schools or something like that. They get those increased amount of academics and so forth, and different programs and sports and so forth like that. So just even not as an elected official, but as a community, we have to make our district more pleasing, and then we can attract our students back here.
Celeste, you are next. Sorry.
Yes. So I'll just begin by saying again that increasing enrollment is critical in our district. The number is 50% that choose to not attend schools in Ypsilanti Community Schools. So if we put that in dollars, if we increase enrollment by 300 students, that's $2 million that comes to the district. So we need to do a better job of, one, marketing who we are as a district, our successes, being transparent and honest about our challenges, and really talking about ways we're making improvements. We're not a perfect district, but no district in this community or in this state or in this country is. But I think we could do a better job of reaching out to different sectors of our community to share our story, what's going well in Ypsilanti Community Schools. Those who have not looked at Ypsilanti Community Schools because of what they've heard, perception is reality, and there are a lot of residents who don't choose Ypsilanti Community Schools not because of something that's happening in our district, but because of something somebody may have told them. And so that, to me, is something that we need to be aggressive about changing, is getting out there, getting in front of our message, making sure that we are really highlighting our successes, and like I said, being honest and transparent and open about what our challenges are, and really just outlining what we're doing as a district. We have excellent students in our district. We have bright students in our district. We need to get in front of that story so that people will give Ypsilanti Community Schools a second look.
It's tough to understand unless you ask the question to get an answer. Why are students and parents not wanting to come to the Ypsi schools? We have to ask the question and find out what are they thinking. There are a lot of things that happen around that there never is an answer. I was told there was a drive-by shooting downtown Ypsilanti. The result turned out to be somebody had a paintball gun. Now, we've got to quell those innuendos and misinformation that comes around that Ypsilanti is not the dangerous school district in the county. It's not. I mean, we have problems like everybody else has problems, but we've got to get the communication out to the community to tell them we are okay. Your child is safe in our district. And I think that the fund that we've got to pay back, we may not be able to get rid of that fund, but maybe we could get the state to put it off a little bit, pay it, kick the can down the road a little bit to maybe give us a little bit of a reprieve, so we've got some money available now to do the things we really need to do and find out what does the public dislike about our district. We've got to ask the question.
So there's two ways to view our current problem, specifically with the 50% of kids who don't go to our district. One is cup half empty, other one's cup half full. We have an opportunity to gain 4,000 students in our district. That's awesome. We have plenty of space in our buildings to do it. That's great. Being that I was on a committee that created a new school, I've seen this go from an idea that seemed far-fetched to a real thing that is a school that's performing successful and well. So I've seen this process and been a part of this process with this district, with this administration. And we can do that again. There's an opportunity here in our community to engage with parents, to engage with students, to engage with community members across the board, to find out what they want and simply create that program in our district and move forward with those ideas. I know that sounds like a dream sometimes, but I've been part of that dream, and that dream's a real school that's producing happy students right now, and happy teachers, and happy parents. So I feel like this is as much of reality as anything. And it not only is it an idea, but it has to be. This is our onus. We need to provide these opportunities for our young people. We need them to go to school in our district. I will be advocating as a hopeful future board member at Ann Arbor Public Schools meetings for my 3 minutes and saying we need our kids back. This has kind of gone on too long, and we want the opportunity to educate our kids. They've taken too much from us, and the time is over for this. Specifically, I'm angered by watching many kids in our district say that they feel like they're in the low district because their friends and neighbors go to Ann Arbor, which is this awesome place. So we can't feel shamed. We can't have our kids feel shamed about the schools that they attend. They need to feel proud about it, and we need to make them feel proud by making them awesome.
I do believe that there is a lot of misinformation out there, and there's a lot of rumors, and there are people that just think the schools are bad. I can't tell you how many conversations I've overheard at work of people who don't have children or children in the schools that live in Ypsi that will say very casually, "Oh yeah, Ypsi schools are horrible," and they have absolutely no idea. So I mean, that is a reality. However, we need to make our schools great, and people want to come here. I mean, think about what's going on with Weima and Y-High. Technically, Y-High is not an Ypsilanti school, but there are a lot of Ypsilanti children in that school. So it's not our kids that are the problem. It's not our teachers that are the problem. So we can do it. We can bring back those children. I think it's not a popular thing to say, but when you talk to adults who do not understand the ramifications of school of choice and charter schools and what that does, every person that leaves because they have the wherewithal to leave makes the person that's left behind that much worse off. And that is, if we're all going to take care of each other, that can't continue. So we're lucky. We've had some excellent communications in the 4 years that I've been on the board. Our communications department has got ahead of the bad messaging, and they've done a lot of work, but we still have a long way to go.
So I agree with some of the things that have been said about perceptions. I think that communication and transparency is really essential to me. I'm a communications person, and I do think that the district has done a good job of telling the good stories. There are a lot of really amazing things going on in YCS, and unless you have a kid in the schools, you might not know that that's happening. There are some really bright spots and really incredible programs. So I think that part of it is changing perceptions, and part of it is about talking to parents about investing in our community. If every student who lived in the Ypsilanti district went to Ypsilanti schools, we wouldn't have a budget problem. We wouldn't. we would be fine on that. So I think that bringing kids back to the district is really important. And I think we're really at the cusp right now. YCS has been gaining enrollment, and we have this opportunity. There are a lot of young families who are moving to the Ypsilanti area, and a lot of them leave when they get to kindergarten. And I don't want to see that happen anymore. And I think the place that we can do that is in preschool. So specifically, one thing that I would note as a parent of a preschooler is that I can only send my kid right now to one school, and that is Wise. And so we need to have sliding scale preschools at every single school so that parents like me can send our kids anywhere, and that no matter what income you're at, you can send your kid anywhere and start to invest in every single school all the way across the district, and bring middle-class parents and parents of every income together in the same schools. I think that'll break down a lot of barriers. I think the last thing that we can do to really keep students in our schools, and you'll hear this from me a lot, is about keeping good teachers. When you see a teacher that you have been wanting to have, you're so excited to have Mr. So-and-so in 4th grade, or you're excited about that teacher, and you see that teacher leave, that's pretty disheartening for a family. And so we need to make sure that our great teachers stay in the district and that we are taking really good care of our staff.
Very quickly, you all talked about communications.
Okay, I'm sorry, but no. The next question, we'll start with Celeste Hawkins. As a board member, you have an opportunity and obligation to advocate for our students at the state level. Where do you see the legislative priorities in Lansing that could most improve outcomes for our students and teachers?
Some of the areas I think that Lansing could focus on as it relates to the achievement rates in our district. I'll talk more broadly, I guess, first about kind of the results that just came out from the Midwest Trust and some of the MSTEP data, which really shows that our students are not faring well in terms of reading proficiency and math proficiency. I think our legislators really need to take a hard look at that. I think we need to examine internally as a district what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, because we are failing by and large a number of students in our district, and that is a tragedy. We should all be outraged about that. We should all be showing up to board meetings, asking questions of the school board, demanding answers as to what is happening. When we look at this data and kind of pull back the layers, students of color and students with disabilities are really not doing well in terms of reading proficiency and math proficiency. That needs to stop. And I hope that people are paying attention to what that data says, and that as engaged community members, as engaged citizens, that we all roll up our sleeves and put some skin in the game to say we want more, we demand more for our young people, and we all need to work collaboratively to make that happen. So I think the priorities that we can press upon our legislators is to really look at the investment they're making in communities, per pupil funding, how that's being distributed across counties in a very inequitable way, and really looking at how that really translates into what is happening in the classroom for our young people, because they are not doing well, many of them. Some of them are doing excellent, but many of them are not doing well, and I think we need to do more to hold our legislators accountable and to hold all of our elected officials accountable for the data.
I think that one of the things we could start with would be to talk with the legislature about the concept of the charter school. It's taken public monies for profit. And I don't really think that that is the best way for us to approach educating youth. The charter school comes up with a dream They don't always come up with a really successful. They get the people to come there. I don't really believe that over the long haul they're doing any better. I had an opportunity a number of years ago to spend some time working for a friend of mine that had a charter school, and I found out in a hurry that the teachers in the charter school did not even have teaching certificates. They were just people that got jobs. They didn't pay any better than we did, but they had a dream that they could move on. We've got to stop that dream. It's not any better than our school district.
I'm the son of a special needs teacher for 40 years, and she's one of the other major reasons that I'm here today, too. She's my hero and who I aspire to be in every way. Charter schools, like Bob said, have affected a lot of things, and I think Ypsilanti is a petri dish for the way that that's affected us specifically in terms of taking so many of our students away from us, and the charter's not having to provide busing, but also coming to my mother more specifically, not having to provide special needs teachers or staff at those locations. And that is the biggest difference maker. Not only does that saddle our district with special needs students to a much higher level, but additionally, special needs students cost often more to teach because we have to have more teachers' aides. We have to have just more thought processes that go into their best lives. The fact that charter schools don't have to accommodate for this in any form of fashion is horrible. So regulation of our charter schools seems like something that everybody would win from, and across our state. The fact that they're moreover completely unregulated is just egregious, and I can't believe that we let it go on this long, specifically because it impacts the populations that we should be caring about the most disparately. And so it's sad, and that's what I would try to work with my state legislatures on.
I 100% agree with every word of that. So I'm not going to repeat all that. The other thing that I think that we should look at, and the equitable funding is the other piece where it's absolutely ridiculous that the per pupil funding for Ann Arbor schools is higher than it is here. It doesn't even make any sense that the kids with the most need get less money. So that all needs to be looked at. And one other little thing, it's not a little thing, but it's not as high a priority as those two things, I think, is standardized testing is an enormous waste of money. And it eats up time, teaching time, it eats up budgets. It's absolutely ridiculous. And when we all know that standardized testing is a great way to identify which districts have the most money. I mean, we don't need testing for that. We already know that. What we need no more, we need to get rid of the standardized testing. It's great to focus on reading and make sure kids can read by third grade, but we don't need to test them 5 times a year to tell us that these kids don't have enough money.
I'm glad you asked this question because I think there are a lot of things that need to change in Lansing, and I think one of the things that you'll get out of me as a school board member is that I'm not afraid to go and tell them, and anyone who wants to come with me is invited. We used to have the top 10 schools in the nation, and when I graduated from Michigan Public High School in 1999, we had some of the best schools in the US, and now we're in the bottom 10. And the reason for that is that the state basically consolidated all of the school money into what they call the school aid fund, and then they've just been chipping away at that fund. Most recently, some new legislation came through to tax online sales. So the sales tax should all by law go to the school aid fund. And guess what Governor Snyder said? Let's use all that money for roads. Now, I agree that we need to fix the roads, but not at the expense of our kids in our schools. So these are the kinds of things that I think our legislators in Lansing need to be hearing from us about. At the same time, I'm also pretty pragmatic, and I think there are some things that we could be pushing for in Lansing that actually could get passed, even in a GOP legislature or in a mixed legislature. One of those things is plan ahead school funding. So I know this sounds crazy, but in Massachusetts, you actually figure out how much money you have to run your school before the school year starts. We don't do that in Michigan. We wait until count day in October to figure out how much money we're going to have for the school. And so that results in charters closing in the middle of the year. It results in a huge amount of disarray, really, within our schools. So that's one area that is bad for everybody. And I think that that's a place that we could get changed. And finally, for the legislators that passed the third grade reading law, I'm not a huge fan of that law, but if we're gonna have that third grade reading law, we need to fund it. We need to put dollars behind it and have coaches. We need to have school libraries that are open. We need to focus on reading and have the resources to make sure that every single one of our students is able to meet that standard.
So earlier, Gillian and Ellen talked about communications. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Taryn for promoting the excellence of our school district and so forth. But to answer the question, we have to hold our elected officials who are in office now more accountable than what we have been. And really press the importance of our education, because education is the foundation for the lives of our youth all around the state. And we need to use the same energy as we do for other issues into education, because we are literally losing lives because of this and so forth. So, and piggyback off of Gillian said earlier. So.
All right, the next question will start with Robert Aller. The third grade reading law has placed even more emphasis on English language arts and high-stakes testing. We already put a high proportion of instructional time into math and English language arts, and we do need to improve in those areas. As a board member, how will you help ensure that we close our literacy gap while still promoting educational rigor in other important subject areas like social studies, science, art, music, and physical education?
Some time back, I had a discussion with Dr. Benjamin about how do we assure the student that goes up through the grades is successful. And naturally that discussion got into retention and things of that nature, which is a very difficult. If somebody's not achieving and we tell the parent we want to retain them to make sure that they can achieve the next year, the parent doesn't want that to happen. So we had the discussion about putting all of our money in kindergarten and making sure that everybody in kindergarten is successful. Then the next year we put a lot more money in first grade and kindergarten and so on up, and it takes you 12 years, and you should be real successful in the end of 12 years having all the students achieve what they're supposed to achieve when they're supposed to achieve it. It's a very difficult task to have a student that comes in much better prepared. We don't have prerequisites. In college, I wanted to take Econ 301. They said you can't take 301 until you take 202. Prerequisite. We don't have prerequisites. The students come in at very different levels. So we've got to take a look at where the students are coming in and what are we doing with them as we move them on. The reading law, that's going to be real interesting at the end of this year, where we stand on the third grade.
Just to restate the question, it was, what do we want to do to ensure that both? I'm sorry, to.
That's okay. Let me repeat it. The call of the question was, as a board member, how will you help ensure that we close our literacy gap while still promoting educational rigor in other important subject areas like social studies, science, art, music, and physical education?
Thank you. So the first thing I have to say about my role as a future hopeful board member is my number one role is hiring a superintendent, managing a superintendent, and if we have to, firing a superintendent. So as far as my specific work in these categories, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a superintendent. It's my job to best educate and equip our superintendent as to what's going on and where we need to go as a board. So with that thought process being applied, as a board member, something that I'm already excellent at is creating partnerships. So an organization I already work with is 826 Michigan. They do a great job engaging our young people right now through story and through tutoring and many other things in elementary schools currently in Ypsilanti. My idea as a board member would be finding out how to double down on that partnership or other similar partnerships to find ways to get creative, thoughtful, awesome processes into our education system, specifically in literacy, so we can best move forward as a district. As to how to focus on that at the same time focusing on art and math and science and our other priorities, this is a difficult question. It's hard to be everywhere at once and make sure every single thing has equal priority, but that's our onus as a board, as educators, as parents, that we need to get our kids a well-rounded education. So all I can say to that question would be, I'll do my absolute best to figure out how to get a student the happiest and with the highest achievement level possible on a daily basis.
I kind of agree with some of what you said there about that nitty-gritty educational level is in the weeds, and it's not necessarily something that the board level has direct control over. What the board can do is to prioritize the funding for the groups that need it the most, and hopefully work with the superintendent to carry those goals of the district or the mission of the district, to work with the superintendent to carry those things out. So it's an indirect answer, but the idea would be, in my mind, to prioritize the funding for the people that need it. If it's the second graders or the first graders or whatever, to get them compliant with this law, then that would work. I've never, and I'm not an educator, so I don't know the answer to this, but I've never understood why things weren't really more combined anyway, as far as, when you're learning to read, why wouldn't you be learning to read, say, something in social studies so that you're learning two things at once? I feel like there should be a lot more of that, but I'm not an educator, so maybe there's a good reason that more of that isn't done.
Piggybacking off of that, that was my first thought, is that this question kind of presented reading as opposed to social studies or science, and you can't learn social studies or science without reading. And so there are a lot of trade-offs and hard decisions that the board is going to have to make, and that is not one of them. Because the way that you prioritize this, and as working at the library, one thing that I've learned more than anything else, that if you want a student to read, you have to give them something they're interested in reading. And the way you do that is to find things, and those topics are social studies and science and art and music. Those are the kind of texts that kids can get engaged in. And so those are the kinds of interdisciplinary programs that I would look for when we're looking at curriculum and doing other things at the board level. As Tyler mentioned, I think that community engagement, again, is really essential here. Kids need to build pre-reading skills, and that starts before we get them in kindergarten. We need to be starting at birth. We have incredible resources in our community. We have High Scope, we have the library, we have 826. We've got a huge number of resources. One program that I think that I would love to see the schools replicate that we've done at the library is called Prime Time, where we bring in a family and there's childcare for the younger kids, there's transportation, there's food and dinner, and we bring in for 6 weeks the whole family and have them all read together as a family, so that the parents become reading role models and the younger kids start to get engaged in reading. And this program is fully funded through the Michigan Humanities Council, and we could be doing it at every single one of our schools. And so that kind of model where we're really bringing everyone together and providing all the resources to make sure that the parents and and the students and everyone is getting engaged is the kind of thing that I think we need to be looking at.
I definitely agree with what Gillian said. And my last sit to it is definitely increasing the parent involvement within our students' academics. I think that will play a major role within increasing our district's achievement rates, because right now only 20% of our students are at their correct academic level. And I feel like it starts at home. So once we increase our parent involvement and participation inside and outside the schools, and what's being taught inside the schools is being taught at home, academically, I feel that it will help out perfect.
So a few things I think that a school board needs to look at. And I think that is, first of all, assessing what's working and what's not working. We are responsible as a school board for making really important decisions as it relates to curriculum. We spend lots of money on curriculum, and we need to be held accountable to the results driven by that curriculum choice that we made. So I think we need to assess what's working and what's not working. We need to make sure that every curriculum decision we make for children is in their best interest. We need to make sure every curriculum decision is made through a lens of equity, making sure we're making choices that reflect the population that we serve. When you walk into the schools should reflect the population that you serve in your classroom teaching and how you feel, how students are celebrated, the linguistic and cultural assets the students bring to the classroom. We need to look at all of those areas. We need to make sure that this is not a either or scenario, but it's a both and. So we need to make sure that we are making sure literacy outcomes improve, but we also need to make sure that we are also putting money towards, say, AP classes, advanced placement classes, honors courses. It costs money, but we need to have balance in our budget so that we're able to pour resources and money into the classroom for students who are at all different levels in our district. We need to be very strategic in aligning the goals of our district with the curriculum choices that we're making. And then we need to have a high quality, engaging, and rigorous curriculum that is relevant for our students. And lastly, I will say that I think we need to, instead of making decisions from a deficit framework, we need to really look at making decisions from an asset framework. What assets do our students bring? Often we talk a lot about what they're lacking, and it needs to be driven by what assets they bring to the classroom and making decisions based on that.
Okay, the next question starts with Tyler Weston. What qualities are you most looking for in Ypsilanti Community Schools' next permanent superintendent? And what will you do as a board member to ensure that the district recruits and hires someone that meets those criteria and is likely to remain a permanent superintendent?
So I've been very lucky to work with Ben on a lot of different projects over the course of the last 3 years. Really get to know him well and see the achievements that he made in our district, both with from a staff side, from students, just across the board. I was really inspired by a lot of his works, the way that he led just audaciously. Sorry for my mic. Oh, my mic, is it good? Okay, now it's working, sorry. Oh, maybe it's not. Hi. Okay, that's better. So I got to have an awesome experience with Ben. I really got to understand a lot about what he did on a daily basis because I got to interact with him so much, and I saw the positive effects of that. One of them was reaching out to the business community, reaching out to the community of nonprofits that were nearby, and really being a physical force in those spaces. He would go and participate, and he would ask them to participate in our students' lives and really get them involved in the district. So that is something that I would love to see in our next superintendent. The largest thing I saw with Ben, specifically related to his ability to identify black talent inside the district and bring black talent in the district in the form of teachers and administrators and staff across the board. Modeling is so important for our young black people in our community, and seeing the amount of talent that Brent brought in that category, I know tremendously changed a lot of outcomes with students because I feel they were able to model positively, and Ben just did an amazing job at that. So those are the two. I could go on, but those are two things that community connections and an ability to recruit and retain and identify talent with our African American population and helping that to keep going.
And we go around to Ellen.
For our next superintendent, we need a couple of things. I do want to say Ben was great at after the consolidation, we were still very much two districts, and there was a lot of, well, the old district, the new district, that, and when Ben came in, really, I feel like a lot of that stopped. He also made huge effort in going to the community and pointing out, as people should have never forgotten, but it was forgotten, that the school district is the kind of the lifeblood of our area, and if our school district is bad, then your property values are bad, and the businesses should be investing just like everyone else. So that was great. But he's not here. We do need a new superintendent. One thing that we really need is a lot more organization within the administration of our district. We've had high turnover now. There have been a lot of key positions that have recently left or left in the last year or two, that there needs to be some stability there. HR, the CFO, just there's some really important positions that we need to have someone in place who's kind of a manager, who is really good at hiring the right people and putting them in the right position and making sure that they're doing the right job. We actually lost a fair amount of money in the last couple of years that we didn't know about because our pupil accounting was not accurate. And so we can't let that happen again when we have budget problems. So we actually need someone who does everything Ben did and then more. We need more organization. We still need that community outreach piece, but we also need someone who's more organized and able to do that.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what's been said so far. So I was on the hiring committee at AATA when we hired a new CEO, and so kind of bring some of that experience to the table in terms of hiring an executive and then going ahead and building a relationship and building a new board and forming a strong working relationship with that superintendent. And I think that's really what we need to do. I agree that and one thing we looked at through that process is that sometimes you need a turnaround person. And I think Dr. Edmondson was an incredible turnaround person. We couldn't have asked for anyone better. Everybody knows who he is, who our district is. They're thinking about it. They're involved in the community. Now we need a sustaining success person, someone who's going to put the systems in place to make sure that we are organized, that if one person leaves, it's not the end of the world. We still are continuing. Everything is, there are good systems to make sure that we are a well-organized district. And we need an effective team leader and relationship builder, someone who inspires our staff and who they can rally behind. And then also, someone who's going to build a relationship with the board, build a relationship with our funders and with our communities. I think that, those are really the qualities that I would look for, is that community involvement, and elevating talent, but really making our district feel like a team again, still.
For me, someone just like Ben, he did a hell of a job for a district, fresh district, and for us to have over 3 superintendents since the consolidation. He did a tremendous job. He was on the ground, hit the ground running, and stayed consistent. Folk may have said what they said about him, but he was a hardworking man, and we need someone like him to move this district forward, to stay consistent.
So with our next superintendent, I think we need someone who is a listener, someone who listens to all segments of our community, be that our students, our parents, our teachers, every stakeholder in our district. We need someone who is a listener. We need someone who understands our community. We need someone who is 100% committed to improving student achievement. We need someone who can work collaboratively with our unions. We need someone who values and engages student voice. Not just talk about it, but actually have them involved in decision-making roles. We need, I think, to acknowledge our interim superintendent, who is doing a really nice job in this role right now. She's a great communicator. She's been doing a number of listening sessions out in our community, really trying to understand and assess where we are as a district and making improvements. She's a systems thinker. We need someone who is a systems thinker because we have big decisions that need to be made and our systems need to be in order. We need someone who is invested in the fidelity of the district turnaround network, which we are a part of, and our interim superintendent is invested in that work. And lastly, we need someone who is committed to cultural proficiency and restorative practices in our district.
We definitely need somebody that has listening skills. The board's got an idea of what they want the district to do. The superintendent's got the task of carrying that out to the public. We need somebody that's going to be a community member, be at functions in the community, be at one with the community, not always coming from someplace else. The organization and how it's run is got to be governed by the strength of the superintendent. The board can only do so much. The superintendent serves at the pleasure of the board, so then the superintendent's got to go out and make sure that the wishes of the board and the school district meet what the community is looking for. The community is not satisfied with something. We got to find out why. We got to talk with them, communicate. We need a superintendent that really becomes one in part of the district, the community.
Well, that's okay, because now we are going to a reverse direction and move to the candidate's right. So we start with Tyler again. Within the past few months, the revelation of an undisclosed criminal record of a candidate for local office deeply affected the community and impacted the primaries. Do the candidates here tonight have a criminal record? And if so, please explain.
I have a drinking and driving from when I was 24, so that would have been 15 years ago. Yeah, so I have that. As a young person, I was had a lot of trouble, and I was on probation a lot when I was a young person. To speak to that point, like, to be very frank with everybody here, I really find a lot of kinship with young people that are struggling. And because of that, more specifically, that really makes me feel engaged with our young people who are where they're at. I just became the 2018 Ozone House Volunteer of the Year, and that's an accolade that I want. It's great to be supported by a teachers union or a laborers union. Those things are awesome, and congratulations to everybody who got those. But to be awarded by an organization that serves students that are in the most need is the accolades I'm seeking, because those are people that I relate to and care about and mean the most to me because I relate with their struggle. So that's me.
My first job out of college was with the United States Department of Justice, Bureau of Prisons. 3 years I was in the joint. As an employee, I learned very early on that that's not where I wanted to be overnight. I can't emphasize it. I had friends that come to visit me. They got into the sally port, which means one door is open and the other one is closed. And the person in the control room got a phone call and they were stuck there. They went back the other way. They didn't come in. They couldn't stand it, the thought that they could not have the freedom that they wanted. And when you're in jail, you're bad, you do something wrong. No, I would never even think about having anything to do with that.
The question is, do you have a criminal record, correct?
Yes.
No. I do not have a criminal record. I don't have a glamorous story about having one. I don't even have a driving ticket. I've never received one, and my insurance rates are really low. So I'm very proud of that. Somebody knock on wood for me, because I've just never got a ticket. I've not been in trouble with anybody. So, sorry.
No criminal record. but juvenile, yes, that has been disclosed over the last 2 years on local, state, and national media that I'm sure everyone knows about, so forth.
Thanks. I did get arrested once when I was 17 for trespassing on a Riverside College campus. They didn't charge me. We were like going in some spooky place. It was fun. It was not a criminal issue. That's honestly everything. I drive a little fast sometimes. That's probably the only other thing. I take responsibility for all my own actions. And in the last few months, I've been asked to take responsibility for other people's actions. I ask everyone to take responsibility for their own actions. And I think that's really essential. You know, I know that this is referring to, sexual assault allegations, and I think that's incredibly serious. We're having a reckoning in our country, and I'm really glad that it's happening. I'm glad that time is up on this pervasive problem of sexual assault, and the fact that 1 in 4 women will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime, myself included. I think we need to be talking about that and talking about relationship violence in our curriculum. And we need to be holding people responsible for their actions. I also want to note, though, that part of my platform is that I believe in restorative justice. And with restorative justice, that's not just a word to me. We have students who have done bad things, and they think that their life is over because they have done something bad. And that is a really, really tough position to be in. And what restorative justice says is that we need you to take responsibility for your actions, own up to your actions, and apologize, accept the consequences. And if you do that, you have the right to an education. You have the right to be back. You can find a way out of this if you want to take steps to invest and make sure that your future is different than your past. So I really find it essential that we talk about things that have happened, and that we air. When things have happened, we need to air them. We need to talk about them. But I believe we also need to realize that people can accept the consequences of their actions and move on, and try and take steps to have a good life and be productive members of society.
I don't have any interesting or fun story. I'm very boring. I do have a couple speeding tickets, but the last one was, I think, 13 years ago. I do want to say I really appreciate Tyler and DaQuann talking about their episodes, and you two. I 100% believe in restorative justice. We think about that a lot at expulsion hearings. Celeste and I, that's something that many people probably don't know, is that when you're on the school board, you are the body responsible for expelling a student. And when you're thinking about a 15-year-old kid and you're saying you can't come to public school anymore, it's pretty serious, and it's not pleasant. So it's important that when we're thinking about these young children and we give them opportunities, because we can't just throw them away. We have to make sure that our school district is a place where people have the chance to make mistakes and recover.
Thank you. Next question starts with Robert Oliver, and we go to the right still. Transportation and busing are ongoing issues in our district, especially as school closures and unrestricted within-district school of choice have increased the average distance to school and complicated busing routes. The difficulties this causes are exacerbated by problems with the bus contractor. How would you address this?
I was in charge of transportation for 7 years, and never one time that I can remember did we ever have a discussion at the board level of anything dealing with transportation, because I believe I ran it a little bit differently, maybe a little bit more dictatorial than it's run now. We've made some changes in, I was experiencing what you referred to as the school of choices. I told them that we should call it district of choice, not school of choice. The people that were coming to the district were picking the building that they wanted to go to and passing up the building that was 3 blocks down the street. We ended up busing those students. It's very, very, very difficult to have a non-neighborhood school concept, open enrollment, and trying to figure out a way to get students from one side of town to the other at the request of the parents, and we gave them the permission. And the accuracy of the information that transportation has that comes from the database at the school district, it's got to have improvement. There's not one single answer, but it's very difficult to figure out in employment stability, traveling across the district and trying to get there in a very short period of time. Nearly impossible.
So right now, I think the board that's seated now is I would say very frustrated with the services that we receive through Durham. We take those concerns, those complaints very, very seriously because transportation can make or break a district. When parents are frustrated, their children aren't getting to school on time, they're not coming home on time, that creates a level of frustration where parents are ready to make a different choice. I am very disappointed that we have a contract with Durham this year that included an increase because there were so many issues with the transportation service. I am glad that we are doing a transportation study now and that we are looking at different options. Because my children have been in this district since kindergarten, I remember when transportation was in-house, and being a new parent, sending your kids off to kindergarten, that's scary. And so having door-to-door transportation service, knowing who the bus driver was, having a relationship, that is something that I deeply valued and really was my decision for being so committed to and being a champion for this district. So transportation is incredibly critical. We need to get a handle on making sure we're making the best choice so our parents aren't frustrated about the transportation. It should not be this hard. It should not be this difficult. And we need to do better.
I agree 100% with Dr. Hawkins.
So as I mentioned, I have some background in transportation, and the most important thing that a bus can do is be there when it says it's going to be there. And that's a bit easier said than done a lot of times. But that is the number one thing that I would be looking for in our transportation contractors and any kind of transportation solution that we have, is that on day one, when we start school, that if a student is at a bus stop, that the bus is ready to pick them up at that time. Now, I realize that that's a large logistical challenge, but there are lots of great techniques. There's lots of software that can make that easy to figure out. The second thing that I've learned about transportation is that one thing that's really effective is a hub and spoke system. So I think that we can actually come up with a way to transport students to a hub that is closer to them, and then shuttle them over to the school that they want to go to. And that way we're able to maintain our school of choice and able to continue the guarantee that you're allowed to go to the school that you want to go to. But we're able to do that in a far more efficient way and a far more cost-effective way. Because sending 2 different buses or 3 different buses out to the same neighborhood is just straight up inefficient. And finally, I'm glad that this transportation study and that the board has authorized this transportation study, because I think that we have some opportunities, and we need to explore different options, whether it is working with this contractor and getting them to come up with a better system and a more efficient way of doing transportation, taking buses in-house, partnering with neighboring districts, or finding other ways, finding another contractor, finding other ways to make sure that there is a busing system that is meeting our needs. I would love to see, I appreciate that Durham Transportation is unionized and that those are union jobs, but one of the problems with getting our buses to where they need to be is that our bus drivers are not paid enough. And so they are not coming to work. And so that is a huge problem for us. And so I think we need to really look at it as a holistic system and figure out ways to make it more efficient.
So I'm just going to pretend I said all that because that was all right. But to take it a little bit further, you know, I am pro-union very strongly. I would not like the idea of putting union drivers out of work for Durham, but Durham was sold to us as a cost savings option. And I think it's time to look again, you know, because we're losing students because of transportation. How cost effective is it to use Durham and or any other vendor? So I think it's really time to take a good hard look at doing our busing in-house again. That puts the district on the hook for the salaries and the pensions and whatnot. But it's in the long run, as so often is the case with privatization or outsourcing, things like that, it seems like you're going to save money and you get promised you're going to save all the money. And when you need to save money, that sounds great. But in the long term, you actually end up losing money. So I think we need to look at that again.
So I think a point of context on the specific subject is that the reason we started busing parents to whatever school they wanted to go to is because over the course of the last 10 years, we've just been like shifting schools, and now it's K through 8, now it's K through 5, now it's K through 6, now you go here, now you go here, now we're a new district. So that's been our norm for the last 10 years roughly. Through my work with the Facilities Advisory Board, we recommended a bunch of moves to the district that have all come to fruition, and stability is the name of the game going forward. So we need to keep stable as to what schools we have and where they're at. And a very unfortunate thing is we need to tell parents, hey, this is your neighborhood school, and this is where your children need to attend, unless you want to provide your own transportation. Now that's really hard to say to parents, but if we continue just to appease them all the time like this, we're on a continual slippery slope that's only going to get worse. We can never be efficient with this method. It's not going to work. Just trying to appease people constantly and do whatever they want to do and go wherever they want, regardless of where they want to live, is not something that we can do sustainably as a district. I'll note that as a real estate agent, I really know a lot about Ann Arbor, and people define the areas by the elementary school that they're attending in that area. So it's like, this is the Bach neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. We need to have the same thing for our schools and our neighborhoods. This is the Estabrook neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. We need to get that set. We need to draw the boundaries, and it's gonna hurt for a minute, but we need to be sustainable and responsible. In addition, we need to have neighborhood schools for our young people so they can walk home to school with their neighbor who they know. We don't have that currently, and we need it desperately.
Okay, the next question starts with Celeste Hawkins. I think we'll make this the last prepared question, and then we'll move to audience questions. How can Ypsilanti Community Schools better support LGBTQ students, family, and staff?
I think that we need to make sure that our learning communities across our district are inclusive for all populations. I think the district has done a really nice job of making sure that we are sensitive to, we are embracing, we are inclusive of all students. I know recently the board passed a policy just making sure that we recognize and supported the LGBTQ population. So the board is just committed to not just LGBTQ, but I would say every single population, and making sure we're operating through a lens of equity and making sure that our environments are inclusive of all the students and the families that we serve.
Dr. Hawkins said it the best, but definitely treating all our students as equal as possible, and making sure that all our SLCs are very inclusive for their students.
I think that this question in a lot of ways gets back to the climate and culture across the whole district, which is one of the most essential things that we need to be working on in every single building with every single student. And it starts it with the principals and the teachers, showing students that inclusion is important, that bullying is not going to be tolerated, and that if there are threats, and if a student doesn't feel safe, that's going to be really taken seriously and really addressed. But I think that can be approached in a very positive way. That we respect our fellow students. That we that we are here to build our schools as a safe place that are inclusive for everyone. I think that's absolutely essential. And I know that we have great resources. I think we can certainly have more resources, such as a GSA is what it was when I was in school, but other student and teacher and community member resources to make sure that students know that high school is not the end all and be all, and it does get better, and that that they're loved and that they're included, and make sure that every student, no matter who they are, can find a space, can find someone and something to connect to, and to feel like they're included in the school.
Ypsilanti in general is a very inclusive town. I hope our schools reflect that. I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like they do, but you don't know unless you're that person. We, as the board, have made some steps. For instance, one little example is just looking at the application materials to come into the district and making sure that, for instance, the parent information doesn't say mother, father. We've just done little things to try to make our district as open and inclusive. We still have a long way to go. We do need to review all our policies with that in mind, looking at all those things. We've done some of that work, but we need to do more work.
This question to me comes back to partnerships. Again, I think as much as I individually and we as a board would like to say that we know how to create the best policies to be most supportive of this community, the chances are not very good that we will be able to. We have an asset in Ozone House Drop-In Center, which is right down the street, that is an amazing job connecting with the population and making them feel safe, making them feel empowered, and also just listening. They're deeply connected to that community, and I think their learnings that they've experienced could be a great opportunity for us to leverage into creating policy and also connecting with students that are of this population specifically, and so we can figure out how to best serve them. I don't think that we as a board have the ability to do that. I think we need to leverage our partners that are in our community that are already serving these young people and see what they have to say and have them review our policies so we can make the best policies that's most applicable to the young people that are in our community that are already being served by this awesome organization right down the street.
Do not ever be offensive to another person. Love thy neighbor. Treat others as you wish to be treated.
Okay. So we expect the program to go through to approximately 9. Is everyone okay? We need a short break, maybe a restroom break, and so we'll take a 5-minute break so that they have the opportunity to stretch their legs and use the restroom.
It never made it here. You don't look like Mark Rubio, so. Do you have any gin? Do I have any gin? Bob, don't say it out loud. I looked at my, it's like,
Can we take our seats so we can start again in a minute?
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
I mean, we'll sink, if the fund doesn't, 67% of the money we have goes to personnel. Doesn't leave a lot of money to fix the lights, parking lot. When you start talking about maybe $2 million.
I don't feel like
high school.
You did fine. You did really good. It was so unnecessary.
Yeah, I just don't think because now the headline is that we're being intelligent people discuss school issues. It's going to be
The wife of
angry
Yeah, don't worry about it. It was one question. You did fine, and it was a good question. I think.
Candidates, please take a seat so we can start.
It's really helpful. Tremendous. Yeah, okay, thanks.
I was upset answering that question.
She did it.
She didn't do it. Well, and
She wanted to know if I was in favor of the
just answer the question, and nobody would have even turned this.
Well, no, I'm not in favor of anything to raise taxes, but you got to do something.
It's a tough one.
Oh, it's a tough one, really
It was
tough.
like a month worth of going back and forth with myself.
All right, I think we are ready for the first audience question.
So the first audience question will come from Sam Jones-Darling.
Again, you have 1 minute to ask your question, and then step away from the podium, please, and direct your question to all of the candidates.
Absolutely. My question is, have you ever been found responsible by any jurisdiction, board?
Hold on. In the order of the questions, the next question starts with DaQuann Harrison. Now you can go ahead.
Have you ever been found responsible by any jurisdiction, board, university, government, or agency of sexual misconduct, harassment, or assault? And if so, when and by what jurisdiction?
So, as a survivor of sexual assault, I understand the seriousness of that and so forth. Last year, I was found responsible at Eastern Michigan University, but nothing criminally was done and so forth. So,
I believe
Gillian, you are next. Sorry.
Thanks. I believe I've already spoken my piece on this issue. No, I have not ever been found guilty or accused of sexual assault. I just want to say that I hope that the headline, that what everyone takes away from this discussion tonight, is intelligent people discuss school issues and how to make our district better. And I do think that these discussions are important. I would hate to see them overshadow the really important school issues that we're talking about. I agree with you.
Okay. The answers are still 2 minutes. It's 1 minute for the questioners to ask their question. Ellen is next.
No, the answer is no.
And then we go around to Tyler.
no.
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 The next audience question will start with Gillian.
The next question is from Sage Pazionor.
Okay, thanks again to the league and for the candidates for being here. And my question is, how as a board will you support retaining and attracting good faculty and support staff, because those are at the heart of helping students succeed?
Thanks for that question. As I've mentioned, I think that is one of the top jobs of our board, is making sure that we are able to attract and retain really high quality teachers and support staff in all of our classrooms. That gets back to all of our goals for the district: student achievement, attendance, climate and culture. All the things that we're trying to do as a district really get back to having the right people in the classroom. Paying them well is obviously one of the first steps of that. Is really essential. But I think there are other things. We need to be making sure that we are respecting our professional educators as professional educators. Our teachers know better than anyone what our students really need. And that's one of the biggest dangers of standardized testing, is that we're assuming that every single kid needs the exact same thing. To the extent that it's possible for the board and for the administration to do so, I'd like to make sure that we are giving our students the ability, our teachers the ability to really work with the needs of each individual student and respecting their professional judgment. When we asked about what one other thing in Lansing that I wanted to mention is that there are recent rule changes in Lansing that put 40% of a teacher's evaluation on things like overall test scores of third graders in your district. Things that, even if you don't teach third grade, things that you have absolutely no control over. Now think about that in your own lives, in your own professional jobs, in your assessments. If 40% of your assessment was based on things outside of your control, would you feel great about that and excited to stay in that profession where that's how you're being treated by the legislature? So I think those are the kinds of issues, and making sure that we have principals who are actually able to give instructional support instead of just doing these assessments.
And I hate to beat a dead horse, but we do need to pay our teachers better, and we desperately need better benefits. The school, the legislature has set up a horrible system for how benefits are funded and how it comes out of the staff and the teachers' pockets. It's not good. We also, in addition to the things that Gillian referred to, we also need to work on the discipline issues that are in our schools. We have done a lot of really good things. People, I think the schools are worse than they are, but teachers also need to feel safe in the classrooms.
So, much like has been said before, budget issues are budget issues, and it's really tough to see other districts that are able to pay teachers more and give them better benefits very nearby, and it hurts to lose talented teachers to those districts as well. So a lot of times when I think about any issue, I think about control what I can control. So if we aren't able to pay teachers the most, if we're unable to give the best benefits to teachers, how can we as a board and as our hired superintendent make teachers feel respected, appreciated, or just find some way to give them some benefit that we can, whether it be tangible or emotional, or just even listening to the teachers on a more continual basis as a board, more specifically, and make them feel as part of the process as humanly possible, because without them, we don't have any kids, and also inversely. So they're extremely important. Again, I'm the son of a school teacher, and she did so much for these kids and continues to. I just want to make teachers feel appreciated and loved and cared for and respected in any way we possibly can, and try to control what we can control, knowing that we won't be able to pay teachers the most or give them the best benefits, but doing our very best to hopefully one day achieve those goals.
Probably one of the most difficult tasks facing the board. 67 cents out of every dollar that the district gets goes to personnel in some relationship. It's very difficult to come up with something that's going to substitute for monies. They're looking for monies. Talked to a teacher the other day that was working on a Sunday, and I had a letter in the building, and I asked her what she was doing, and she said she's moving her stuff out. She's going to Pioneer for a job because she was getting more money. Very sad, very sad. But it's just one of those things. We got to figure out a way we can't give them money, we got to make sure that they're respected, and we give them as much support as we can for whatever they need to do their job.
So I would say a couple of things. First, I think that the board should look at employee retention using a very strategic process. I think that should include collecting employee satisfaction data throughout the school year and exit interview data to see what the reasons were for our employees leaving. I think that it's important for us to have accurate data, timely data, so that we can be apprised of what's working and not working, not just when employees leave, but throughout the school year, so that we can make changes, if necessary, to ensure our employees feel valued, respected, and heard. Secondly, I would say during my elected term, over these past 4 years, I've done a few things as a board member. As a board, we've intervened with evaluations, layoffs, administrative raises, contract approvals, and allowed for pro-collective bargaining language and pushing for the collection of staff input. As a board, it is important that we always engage in a fair and transparent process and keep the lines of communication open between our staff, employees, and administration. It will be important that we enlist the support of our union and see them as part of the solution in promoting not only our district positively, but making sure our employee rights are protected. I believe increasing enrollment, improving academic achievement, and stabilizing employment in our district is a win-win for everyone.
I say two key things real quick. Like Ellen said, we have to pay our teachers more firsthand, because teachers are working 2 or 3 jobs, trying to make ends meet, and also increase our community involvement within our schools, especially with our restorative justice departments, because a lot of times, especially at the high school and middle school, a lot of our kids have behavior issues and so forth, and our teachers tend to have to deal with that one child, and then the other 32 kids there, they can't teach because of the lack of support that we have within our restorative justice centers within our schools and so forth. So.
Okay, our next question will start with Ellen Champagne and go round to Tyler and back.
So the next question is from Anthony Morgan.
1 minute to ask a question.
Good evening, panelists. I'm going to spend 30 seconds before I answer my question. I understand that when it comes to competition, Ann Arbor Public Schools offer 119 extracurricular activities, while Ypsi offers 19, Selene's offer 51, Chelsea offers about 60. And when we're thinking about, I've worked in every school in Ypsilanti, and I worked at about 30% of the schools in Ann Arbor. And I was the restorative coach at Estabrook this last year, in which they didn't really have, I'm not going to talk about the problems, but I want to know, in most of these schools, one of the things that are current is that black boys are expelled 3 times to 1. And I need to know that something in your plan that have a core understanding that every child can learn and that every child can be taught, because that's not what I see on the ground floor from top to bottom. Every teacher doesn't have that same core principle that every child, regardless of what they look like, can be taught. So what fundamental principle would you bring into your ideal of leadership that would help solve that issue?
That is a great question. It is important. We do think about it a lot, and we talk about it a lot, and we, when we are at expulsion or disciplinary hearings, this is very much on our minds, but that's the expulsion part of it. As far as learning, I guess the most important thing would be to get a superintendent who is on the same page, which is that everyone can learn. Because I actually agree with you, there have been times where you get the feeling that there are teachers who actually don't believe that and don't work for all students, and that is that's not acceptable. Unfortunately, the board's role is not to handle the teachers individually, But since we are going to be searching for a superintendent, it would be important to find a superintendent who is in complete agreement with that yes, teachers that cannot live up to that shouldn't be teachers in Ypsilanti.
Tyler is next.
Thank you for the question. A key piece of leadership that I will execute as a board member is inspect what you expect. If we expect to have high outcomes for all students, that means that we need to check and make sure that all students are achieving high outcomes. If we want to say that we believe in equity, that means we need to check and make sure that we are creating equity inside of our school district through practice. I am privileged in that I set my own priorities on a daily basis as an entrepreneur, and that has allowed me to get so involved with the schools to this point so far, and it's been amazing. As your hopeful future board member, I will proceed with that and find a priority to be in every one of these schools as much as I possibly can with announcement. And I know that maybe that day the teacher would act different, but I'm going to put myself in spaces where I'm a listener and an observer throughout this district to make sure that we are executing on what we've laid out for our district and executing on the expectations we've given our parents and our students. So that's something that I do in my daily life currently, and I'll take that into leadership on this board, hopefully.
I think it's extremely important that we have a superintendent that believes in managing the managers. I think that we have a tendency to put somebody in a position and expect them to just do good and not have a problem. If a student is not learning, why? We have to know why. Somebody's got to know why. What is the problem with the student, and what are we doing to solve that particular problem? If you got 28 students in the room, do we have 28 different learning problems? I doubt it. There's going to be some problems, but some are listening skills. There's different ways children learn. We've got to manage how we present the particular information to the different students in the classroom. Manage the managers to make sure that they are in the classroom and not just doing paperwork. In the classroom, knowing where the teacher has a problem and seeing if we can figure out a way to make sure that that student achieves what they're supposed to achieve.
I said earlier that I think that every decision the board makes needs to be made through a lens of equity. That means that we need to own our data. If we are disproportionately disciplining students of color in our district and they are disproportionately being represented in rates of academic achievement, that is something the board needs to address. And we can't just talk about it, we have to be about it. So we can't just say that we are a community and a district that values equity, yet we have data that shows that there are rates of underachievement for students of color and rates of discipline for students of color that is extremely high for the number of students that we serve. So I think every decision we make needs to be grounded, and we need to be comfortable having conversations with each other that make us uncomfortable, because we don't change when we're comfortable. We only make changes when we're uncomfortable. So we have to be bold and courageous and have conversations that are inclusive, conversations that get to the core of what is happening in our schools for our young people, because too much is at stake. We have young people of color who are not achieving in terms of reading and in terms of math. And again, it's something that I'm incredibly passionate about. I'm outraged by it. I have a hard time serving on the board and knowing that this is the data that we have to own, because we need to do better by our young people. We've all graduated from school. We need to do better by our young people in making sure that we are making decisions that are culturally appropriate, that we are making curriculum decisions that are grounded in what's best for our students, and that we value and respect the cultural assets that all of our young people bring to the classroom. we often talk about the problems and the deficits. We need to shift our focus and talk about the cultural assets that our young people bring to the classroom and use that to inform the decisions that we make and the practices that we teach in school.
I definitely agree once again with Dr. Hawkins, but another key factor is we have to hire more staff of color. We have a district that's 80% students of color, and yet we have one black African American male teaching the high schoolers, and that's freshmen. And they go on in classes. You have all white women teaching or trying to teach our young men. They can't respond or learn from them because there's no trust there. The relationship is not trusted, and that's from several reasons. So before we can do anything, we have to hire more staff of color.
Strongly agree with that, and folks have heard from me a lot of times today about hiring and retaining great teachers. That part of that is that staff of color are really desired by a lot of districts, and so we have to work harder to retain those folks. And I think it's really essential that we're able to retain staff of color teachers, especially men, in our district. And it's also essential that we're able to get experienced teachers, because classroom management isn't something that you learn your first year of teaching. And an experienced teacher is going to be able to work with a student, figure out where they're coming from, develop a relationship with a student, and be able to effectively deal with a problem much, much more effectively than a first-year teacher who is straight out of school or doesn't have a lot of experience dealing with that. I agree that we need to be very mindful of our metrics. I think that one thing that I honestly have heard from the board a lot is putting equity first and looking at the number one goal, the number one thing we should be making every decision on is every student, is the most disadvantaged student going to be able to learn better because of this decision? Is this going to help everybody? And so, those are the kind of metrics that we really need to be looking at, especially when it comes to race. We need to have those conversations openly, and really, if we see the disproportionate suspensions of young people of color, which I think we do, we need to be addressing that with every decision from the top down, and really creating a culture that goes from the superintendent all the way on down. That's not going to be the case in our district.
Okay. Next question. We're going to reverse order. So we're going to start with Ellen and come back this way.
So the next question is from Desiree Simmons.
Hello, good evening. I had a couple of questions. I'll go with the easiest one. What is one thing that you would start and one thing that you would stop doing to ensure that we don't become a two-tier district where we focus on bringing white families back into the district without improving the circumstances of the students who have been victims of poor funding while those students were using school of choice? Especially earlier, we're talking about things like neighborhood schools. So one of the most important things to allow that to happen is that all the schools have to be really good. So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Sorry to disagree with you, Tyler, but I do think that one of the things we have to continue to do is allow students to go to any school in the district. Not allowing that ends up segregating the students. So I think it's important for us to find a way for our busing to be efficient and affordable, and still allow any people to pick any elementary school. So that doesn't actually say what I would say start or stop, because that's saying continue to do something. So what would I start? Well, I guess it's easier to say one thing I would stop is we have taken some strides as far as straightening out the the grades, because there were K through 8, there was, one school had 2 grades, one school, everything was different, and we've made strides, but I think we need to finish that and make it so that the kindergarten is just the kindergarten, and the elementary schools are 1 through 5, middle schools 6 through 8, and I would like us to do that because it's more predictable, and if people do want to switch schools, they can, because they're not locked into the wrong school because they're, the grades are different. If they go, they'll be in the wrong place, so that's one thing I would like us to stop doing, is having the schools not be the same. I just can't think of something to start. That's it.
Thanks. I mentioned it earlier, but I think that one thing that I would like to start doing, one of the things that is a divider in our school is tuition-based preschool, and the fact that one preschool has tuition while the other preschools don't. I think that we need to be treating all of our schools the same, and especially the entry into all of our schools, in terms of having a sliding scale and having the option to go to any of those places. One other thing that, I agree with Ellen that one thing I would like to see us stop doing is having so many different schools that have different grades. And honestly, and I think we are going to be phasing out the calendars, but the different calendars, it makes it really hard to have one kid in one school and one kid in a different school, and it makes it really hard to change. So you're really stuck into one track. I'd like to, give parents the options to look at all of those items. And I'd like to look at more options in the district. I think that in the high school you hear about, there's the STEM middle college, there are different academic programs at that level. And at the elementary and middle level, we have IB and not IB. And so we really have 2 tracks. And I think that there are some opportunities to have various academic options that give parents a range of choices based on the academics that are really going to fit their student, but that aren't necessarily tracked to a particular neighborhood or a particular income level.
Can you repeat the question one time, please?
I think, it was an audience question, and I think that perhaps her concern is that seems to be, I think, we had a similar question. There seem to be 2 levels of schooling with the IB district and the non-IB district, and how that can, and different levels of education, and how that can become more equal given that impacts the African American population. Would that be?
Well, specifically something you would start and stop to ensure that we don't go down that track.
To prevent a 2-tier between the international schools and the others.
I don't have an answer for that right now, but I can come back. If not, I answer it at a later
time. I think at the bottom line, as it relates to achievement in our district, is every single parent in our community who chooses this school district or chooses another school district, what parents want is a high quality education. They want a curriculum that is engaging, that is rigorous, and that is relevant. And whether that be through IB, whether that be through our traditional middle school, whatever the case may be, fundamentally every parent wants what's best for their students. And as a district, we need to do a better job of making sure we are listening not only to the views of young people, but listening to the views of parents, and increasing our access to advanced placement classes, increasing our access to honors classes, making sure that we are providing a well-rounded, balanced education for all of our young people. We can do that. I know that we have this weird kind of dichotomy between, we have this IB program and it is looked at as a different program. Really, the IB program, I believe that it's a great program. I believe in it. My children are part of that program. However, I know that we have a culture of low expectations that we need to just be real honest about in our district. And that culture of low expectations means that we have an expectation that students can only achieve certain things based on their communities, based on their upbringing. And I think we need to change that perception, because every single young person who comes through our buildings absolutely has the potential to become and do anything that they want to do. And that's a belief that we start at the board level, down to the superintendent, down to our principals, down to our teaching staff. That is a culture that we create in our school system, and have a belief system that every student can achieve. We can't change the circumstances of what's happening in our homes, and that's not the role of the school district. But what we can do is, when every student walks through our door, we can absolutely say that you can and will be anything that you want to be.
We already possess ourselves as a pre-K 12 IB district. The question I always have is, there seems to be a great deal of emphasis that every kid has got to go on to college. What are we going to do with the students that do not have that in their future? They don't think they want to do that. Everybody's got to have a strong emphasis on reading and writing and arithmetic. We got to get down to the basics and make sure that the students can achieve some of the basics. Get some partnerships going with, we have a organization dealing with autonomous cars over 7-8 miles away. What kind of communication are we having with that group? What do they think we should be doing with students to be better prepared for the work life? They're all going to have to get a job. If you're not going to college, you're not going to get some kind of a advanced education, some type of a certification that you can do something. We have it in auto mechanics, in auto body. The students go on, learn some trade, go on into the industry. When you talk to the teachers, they have very few students that graduate from their program that do not go on and work in that particular trade. They're very successful. It's a very good program. The question is, what are we looking at for the student that is not going to be on the high academic track?
I'll answer the question in the start and stop kind of part, if that's appropriate. So I'll start with stop. We need to stop having a lack of investment in the east side of our community. We currently have what is now 4 vacant schools on the east side of Ypsilanti that are our responsibility. We mow the lawn, we pay the bills, we monitor them, we keep the lights on, all that stuff. 2 of these schools have been vacant for 10 years, and one of them gets broken in all the time and negatively affects the neighbors, as you could understand. So we need to stop thinking that that's okay and just be like whatever about it, and we need to knock down those 2 specific buildings and get them in somebody else's hands that can do something productive with them and make them an asset for the people who live next door to them. It's very irresponsible for us to continue to do this on a daily basis. We made these recommendations 3 years ago. I was excited about it. The buildings are still sitting there. Not appropriate. We also have 2 opportunities to create new programs, and actually, there's 3 schools we have on the east side that we own as a district that don't currently have any programming in them at all. So we have an opportunity to create new programs in these school buildings that we own through hook and crook. We got to figure it out. Whether it's with the autonomous vehicle folks and getting them integrated into the schools, or finding additional partners, or finding parents who have energy about a specific matter of whatever sort it is, we need to grab the energy and get it in our schools and make our parents and our students feel like this is my school, specifically on the east side. We desperately need investment, and we've been negligent way too long. We got to be responsible for this stuff. This affects people's lives.
The next question will start with Gillian.
The next question is from Isaac Wingfield.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm curious, considering your primary responsibilities dealing with the budget and overseeing the superintendent, concrete things one or two concrete specific actions that you would take to increase enrollment.
Gillian.
Thanks. We did discuss this a little bit, but I think that's a great question, and honestly, it can't be addressed too much. One really concrete thing that I would do, and one thing that I think is honestly really simple as an ask, is that I would ask anyone who's looking to decide where they're going to send their child to school, that they visit 2 Ypsilanti schools. If you live in Ypsilanti, I would ask that you go and explore and evaluate our schools just like you would any other school. I think there are way too many people who are just making assumptions and that aren't even coming in and visiting our school, talking to our teachers, talking to our principals, and seeing what YCS has to offer. So that's the first thing, is that I would issue a challenge to all parents to come visit 2 schools and consider. I think that when you visit, you're going to find out that you can see your child there, that you can see how you can be successful in that environment. And the second thing that I would do is I think that I would also like to see people from our neighborhoods get into our schools. I've been out knocking on a lot of doors lately, and I find a lot of people say to me, "Oh, my kids are out of school, so I don't really have any investment in that. I don't care who wins for the school board. I don't care what goes on at the schools." Well, of course you do. It's so essential to your community. It has to do with, if your property value is the only thing you're concerned about, great, it's about your property value, but it's about your community, it's about the children in your community and what opportunities they have. And so I'd like to see some more opportunities for people to say, explore their neighborhood school, see what it's really like, potentially get involved, help work on the garden, find some opportunities to get the neighborhood involved. And I think that would really start to turn around the perceptions.
So definitely, as I've been stressing all night, we have to definitely work on our community engagement and parent involvement piece. Once it's all nailed, and once our parents are showing up to parent-teacher conferences and so forth, then we'll start getting out about the good things about district, because then parents and community members will start to become more involved within our schools, showing up to different school events and so forth, and then I feel then. Yeah.
So I think some of the concrete actions that we can take to increase enrollment, because this is something that I often ask about a lot, is kind of what are we doing really intentionally about reaching out to attract and retain the families in our district. I know it starts with me. I talk to my neighbors. I talk to people in the grocery stores. I talk to people in my community about my experiences in Ypsilanti Community Schools and why Ypsilanti Community Schools is a place that people should take a second look at, particularly those who are not looking at Ypsilanti Community Schools as a choice. So I think it starts with me, and I think it's not enough to invite people to come to our board meetings to hear about all the good things we're doing. I think as a board, it's our responsibility to get out into the community. That means we need to be at neighborhood group meetings. That means we need to be in churches. That means we need to be at community events talking about the successes and also, the challenges, and being just really honest about the things that are really challenging us as a district and what we can do to improve. So I think it's less about inviting people to board meetings. I think that's critical and important because we want people to be engaged. But I also think it takes some ownership on the part of the board to get out to the community to make sure that we are celebrating and talking about our successes. Because if we're not telling our story and talking about all the great things that are happening in Ypsilanti Community Schools, then the perception about what our district is defined based on flawed data.
Dr. Hawkins just made some excellent points. I don't see parents coming to us and talking to us about where they're going to send their child to school. I see them just leaving. But we've got to go after them and do an exit interview, find out why are they leaving. You can't solve the problem if you don't know what it is. People are leaving, and we don't know why they're leaving. I mean, we've got a great district. If you want IB, we got preschool 12. What do you want? What is your problem And we've got to get, they're not coming to us. They're not coming to us and telling us we're leaving the district. We've got to figure out a way to get out and communicate with the parents and say to them, we want you here. Why do you not want to come here?
Last year, right around this time, I created an event with Taryn Reed that I sponsored at the Freight House here in Ypsilanti, where I invited real estate agents as well as people that are in the field of real estate in general, so like lenders, title people, so on and so forth, and had them do a meet and greet with our staff and our leadership, where the staff and leadership informed the real estate agents as to all the great things that are going on in Ypsilanti Community Schools. And there were question and answer sessions, had some food. It was great. So in one fell swoop, we informed 50 people that are in the business of telling people where you should and shouldn't live. By the way, that's what real estate agents do. They say, don't go to Ypsilanti Community Schools because it's gross there. You don't want to live there. Go move to Ann Arbor because that's where you want to send your kids. And so that happens every single day with real estate agents. So how do you bridge that gap? By going and informing them exactly as to what we are, what we're about, and the awesome opportunities we have in our schools. So the next time they talk to somebody, they say, well, maybe we should give them a shot. So we need to do that across many sectors. That's one sector that I specifically engaged in, and I'll continue to do that on a yearly basis as I want to make it an annual thing where we're able to have teachers talk to people in that field. It's very important. But in addition, I'll go back to what I said about these vacant school buildings. Like, I would not send my child to a school district if my house backed up to a vacant school that got broken into all the time. Or if every single day I drove past a vacant school for the last 10 years, I'm not going to send my kid to that school. If I have any type, how could I send my kid to the school if these guys aren't being responsible for this building that's just sitting here getting all nasty every year? It's not an option to leave these things anymore. We got to fix this problem because perception is reality. And if we're not taking care of that, we're not going to take care of their kid.
There's been some really good ideas. I think there's two underlying things to think about. What Bob was saying is true. We do lose students. We have it's the best way to have our enrollment go up is to not lose people. It's way harder to get new people than it is to keep the people that we already have. I do think some of it is reasons we don't know. They do want to go to a better school or something, but I think we have to face the reality that a lot of the times our families are transient. They move, they leave the district not because of the schools, but because of circumstances. And it's kind of crazy idea, but we try to offer wraparound services for the students. I feel like we could actually go farther and offer more wraparound services for families. It might cost money, but actually, just a few students makes up a lot of money right away. So, if it meant a better outcome for the student, well, it would certainly be worth it. The other thing too is the underlying perception. We've talked about that a lot. I feel like there might be some way, like what Gillian was saying with the going to door and challenging people to go in the schools, and maybe even challenging our parents that are in the schools to say, hey, if you know somebody within the district that has a student that isn't in the district, bring them, bring them to an event, or, do some kinds of innovative things like that to get people in the door, because I do think that when people see what goes on in our schools, they would like them a lot better, or, realize what they hear isn't necessarily true.
Okay, next question. And it will start with DaQuann Harrison.
The next question is from Maria Goodrich. All right, the next question is from George Hagenauer.
Thank you for doing this. I'm relatively new. I've only been in Ypsilanti for less than a year, but I actually have been hearing good things about Perry Preschool and other educational activities here for the past 25 years when I was living in Madison, Wisconsin. In fact, and one of the best early childhood programs in the country, largest numbers, was created because of Perry Preschool. So what's interesting is that I was actually learning more about what is happening here when I wasn't here than when I am here. And so what I've noticed strongly is that there is no local consistent media. It's not easy for you to get your message out. It's not easy for people to learn about the schools. Is there a strategy that the school district can do in collaboration to create the media that's needed in the community, in which you also need to get the message out?
I believe Taryn, our district's communications coordinator, has been working closely with Cultivate Ypsi and on the ground to get more positive and information out, and also utilizing the district's Facebook page. I don't know if you have social media or not, but they post a lot of events. And also the Washington County Democratic Party, if you remember that, they send out a weekly updates of events. Okay, sometimes more than that, to update you. But Facebook is a great tool. I know that the city of Ypsilanti use for the Ypsilanti area discussion, Depot Town, and so forth like that.
Celeste, you're next.
I would agree that I think we can do a better job of getting a message out about, again, I've said this probably hundreds, not hundreds, but definitely lots of times tonight, about how we need to get ahead of our own message about all the successes and celebrating those and promoting those within our community. I think we need to make sure that we have a solid, positive working relationship with the Ann Arbor media, with MLive. I think that's important because oftentimes I know there has been frustration, certainly for me as a board member, seeing positive stories about YCS. Negative stories tend to get a lot of attention, and oftentimes those positive stories are not highlighted as much. I know that they're working hard and trying to make sure that those stories are at the forefront, but I think we just need to have a good working relationship with the media to make sure, and I know Taryn does a wonderful job of getting information to our news reporters to make sure that message is getting out there. But I think tapping into whatever our media sources are that are reaching our constituents, that are reaching our community, we need to be using that as a way to also make sure the message about who we are, what we stand for, what we're doing well, what we're working on, and what our goals are absolutely needs to be a consistent message that is sent out to a number of different media outlets.
It's very difficult in this situation without a daily newspaper that we depended on for so many years. I was here when Piaget and Connie Camille, and you went to Washington, D.C., and you mentioned preschool or early education, and somebody in the Department of Education would have stood up and said, Ypsilanti, Michigan. That was true. I was here with those people. I think what we need actually two communication links. We need the communication link with the parents of the students of the district, but we also need a communication link with the community. The people that say, well, I'm sorry, I don't have any kids in the school, I'm not interested. I think we've got to figure out a way to get a communication to that group of individuals. They're adults. They don't necessarily have a link to the school, but they should want to know what's going on. That link should also be with the city and the community. In the community, the boards that govern the city, we need to have a communication that when something's going on, and we get the information out to the people so the people know why this is happening. We just had an incident at Eastern Michigan University where they set off some fireworks. And I'll tell you something right now, it sure did bring down the neighborhood, the College Heights neighborhood. because they did not know what was going on. And they blew up Facebook and every other of the social media. We just got to get a communication link going with the public.
Yeah, so first of all, I appreciate MLive being here, and I think Lauren has done a good job reporting on victories in the district across the board. A bigger issue we have as a community is a lack of newspaper and lack of media, and that's like just a systemic issue that we've had for quite a long time. A history lesson is we had our own newspaper, they merged with Ann Arbor, and like all things that merge with Ann Arbor, we lose it. They take it away from us. This is like it's like a vicious cycle that we're participating in as a community. So whenever somebody says, maybe we should merge with Ann Arbor, just be like, no, we got it. So, we have a major gap here. And I've thought about this problem individually as a citizen over and over and over again, and tried to find ways to build a newspaper or a news outlet that would employ staff. It's a difficult problem, and I want to say I have the solution to it, but I don't. One thing specifically when it comes to our communications as a district, first of all, Taryn does awesome. Yen, her predecessor, amazing. But one thing that comes to mind, when I was a student, I did like the morning announcements every day at school. And there was a lot of different opportunities for me to engage in my school, and there was journalism classes and so on and so forth. My first thought is we should really have students lead some of this stuff on media. Like we should have a class that teaches young people media and how to interact with it, and they should be reporting on what's going on in the school on a daily basis. At minimum, we could make a YouTube channel, and you could check out that YouTube channel, and that would help better inform you as to what's going on in the schools. So there's some smaller things we can do just by utilizing the students and the talent that we have in our district currently. And then there's some major issues that we have that I wish I had a solution to.
Tyler just stole my idea. That's exactly, I was thinking the exact same thing that, and it goes back also to the question that was, how are we going to teach math and social studies and this, and I was in journalism when I was in high school and middle school because that was part of our English curriculum. And I was thinking the same thing as I was sitting here. Why aren't we doing that at our schools? That's just one idea. I am not the communications person. I'm sitting next to a communications person, so I'm going to leave the rest of the answer to her.
This is a question that I spend a lot of time thinking about, and I agree that it's largely a community-wide problem, and I appreciate Lauren from MLive being here, but I know that even she was the education reporter and now it has a much broader role, and so the amount of time that she's able to spend in Ypsi and working on our schools is less, and it's because it's very hard right in today's climate to run a successful media operation. And so I had a really interesting conversation with Paul Schutt, who owns the Second Wave Media, or Concentrate, that does on-the-ground Ypsi. And they have been doing this on-the-ground, this embedded reporter in Ypsilanti. And he said that he has 4 pilot projects around the country which were identified as large news deserts. And Ypsilanti is one of them. And Ypsilanti was the most successful one. They're getting the most hits. And so I think that if we can reinvent news, we can do it here. And I think that there are some really exciting opportunities for community partnerships. Another one that I'll bring up is Ypsi Live, which is broadcasting this event tonight, which is all volunteer run. And folks are going out, and Maria and Amanda have been out filming all of our school board meetings, so you can watch live streams of school board meetings and get in touch that way and be able to engage with your community. So I think there are a lot of new opportunities that are emerging. And then finally, what I do at the library is that we have a publication called The Loop, and we just changed it over to a newsprint format that actually goes out to every household on the east side of the county. And that is something that we would love to expand and bring in more partners and work potentially with the schools, with the city, with the township, and with other governments to make sure that we have a way to actually get our message out in print to folks that don't necessarily have internet at home, and especially, we have an aging community. We need print for older folks who are used to that and aren't necessarily on Facebook. And younger folks aren't on Facebook either.
One more? I think we have one more audience question.
And then closing.
And then closing.
So the last question is from Brian Foley.
And this will start with Celeste.
Firstly, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this. Thank you for putting this on. And before I ask my question, I'd just like to preface with a statement. Any type of assault or allegation of assault, sexual or otherwise, is serious in nature, is not to be taken lightly. However, with that being said, we all have a past and we have a history. I am a product of Ypsilanti Public Schools and a very proud resident of the city of Ypsilanti. So I seen when that question that was posed to you, I took that to heart, because one thing I can't stand is to see an African-American man come up and personally attack another African-American man without having the complete facts. I've seen it happen before, right here on the same program again. So I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you've been doing regardless of the personal
Please
attack.
address your comments to the entire audience, please.
My apologies to you, ma'am. Sorry. My question, as being a graduate of Ypsilanti Public Schools, when I went to school, we had industrial arts. And the industrial arts allowed me to become the person I came to be. Would you be interested in bringing industrial arts back to the school? My apologies and thank you.
We start with Celeste.
Industrial arts, I have to say I'm not sure what industrial arts is, but it sounds like it's something that was a huge benefit to you as a student, and I think any opportunity that we can craft that creates pathways for our students to be as successful as they want to be and achieve whatever they want to be, I think that's something the board could absolutely consider and look at and see how it fits within the bigger picture, how it fits within and aligns with the goals of the district. I think just all of these different pathways, every student is not necessarily interested in wanting to go to college, and that shouldn't be the message that we send consistently. The message we should send consistently to our young people is that they can and will be anything they put their minds to. And we just need to create the space for them to walk into whatever their destiny is. So that could mean a number of things. So I think any opportunities we can create to make sure our young people have the skills and the tools they need to be contributing citizens in our society, we absolutely need to look at every single option, but make sure it aligns with the goals of the district.
My answer is yes. In high school, I went through the industrial arts curriculum. I was not a high academic student. I liked to read, but I didn't like to do a lot of the other stuff. I went through here in the Ypsi schools with all those particular programs and watched them gradually go to the side, whether it was home ec, shop, wood shop, metal shop, no matter what it was. The survivor today is the Career Center with auto body and auto mechanics. And they do have culinary arts, but I definitely think that it's a necessity to try and figure out a way to get back to some of those different kinds of trades, instruction, whatever you want to call it, so somebody can get some kind of a certification that when they get out, they've got some beginning of a saleable skill that they can offer to somebody. Graphic arts was a great program, and very few students that graduated through graphic arts did not go on and work in the trade. Printers in the area were begging for somebody to come out and be able to walk in and run the equipment that they were doing, that they had in their shop. RCTC does a wonderful job, and the students graduating from there are in the trade.
So my answer would be yes as well. I really like, my senior year of high school in Big Rapids, where I'm from, I went to vocational education second half of the day, and at that school there was graphic arts, there was culinary, there was auto body, there was a lot of career-related type of classes that we had. And going there my senior year, I took marketing, and it completely changed my life. It put me on a path that allowed me to get some school credits and kind of walk forward and find me here today. So I think that was such a huge part of my life at that time period, having something that like I can engage in, because like Bob said, I wasn't the best student in all other factors. But that was one thing I was good at. And I was able to find that good thing and leverage it into a career, and now I'm here. So we got to find those opportunities to show our students as well. But like Celeste said, this like open it up and be like, what is working for them? You know, we need to engage with them as to what they're interested in. We need to create programs to make it happen. You know, I think a lot of times we get stuck in like where we either were or where we are. We just need to move forward and just go, okay, what do we want and how are we going to do it? And just go there. I know it sounds arduous and tough sometimes, but like life is arduous and tough. We just need to do this for our students and find opportunities so when they're graduating out of our school, they're not going to McDonald's, right? They're going into a trade, whether it be an electrician or what have you. And I couldn't agree more with the need for that. Specifically in this time, I've heard a lot of reports about there being a lack of people coming into the trades and there being a large gap there. So we need to work with those employers, those agencies, and find out how we can partner with them really intentionally to get our students into those jobs and having them make them $40K when they're graduating. Those are the outcomes I desperately want to see.
It's easy to say yes to this, and I do want to say yes, but I also want to point out a couple things. When I was in school a little while ago, we had VOED, and it became the dumping ground. It became the place where, you know, there were certainly some kids in it that really wanted to be in it, but there were a lot of kids in it who were like, not that good at math, so I'm going to go do, you know, auto body or something. And if it's done like that, that's a disservice. I also think that there's really absolutely no reason. College is not that hard. I mean, there's like if you take the time and you do the work, college is not that hard. There is no reason every single one of our kids can't be college ready. And we have a good industrial arts program. And if that's what they choose, wonderful. But it shouldn't, I don't want it to become a dumping ground, and I don't want it to be where they don't come out with any sort of certification or any real job prospects. It has to be a real, robust program that serves the children. So, and I don't know, you know, some people really know what they want to do when they're 18. I didn't, and I know only a handful of people in my whole life that when they were 18 knew, no, this is the path for me. So if we put someone in a program like that when they are perfectly capable of preparing themselves for college as well, and basically they only become prepared for one thing, then we're not helping them. So I think we should be, I know it's a tall order, but I think we should be trying to get them to do all of it. And the children that want to do the trades, great. Let them do that, encourage them, help them. But I don't think that should be a trade-off.
So obviously, yes, I would love to see industrial arts, and I would love to see an expansion of some of our auto body and add additional skills to those sorts of programs. But I think this really gets back to some questions that were raised earlier, both about equity, or about extracurriculars, and also about equity. Someone mentioned that we have maybe 100 fewer extracurricular activities offered in our schools than some of our neighboring districts. And you could say that that's, it's just extra. But if you look at the kids who are really beating the odds in YCS, and there are kids who are doing amazing things and beating the odds, these are kids, the stories I hear are from kids who have found something to connect with at school. Fred Jackson's football team, they are all succeeding academically because they're getting tutoring, they get rides to where they need to go, they have mentors, they have a reason to show up to school every day. The same thing with the robotics team. Those kids are amazing. And they're traveling, they're winning awards. Lynn Settle's art class, the National Society of Black Engineers. These are students who have found something that they can really connect to at school, and that makes all the other academics worth it. So I do think that we really need to be investing in programs like this and giving kids opportunities to find something that makes them want to keep going to school and want to keep learning, and realize why, oh wait, I do need to be able to write in order to do this. I need to be able to compose an email and to do math. One thing I would throw out there, I went to Ann Arbor Community High School, and back in the day, Ann Arbor Community High School actually had a community resource program where you could find someone in the community. If the school didn't have a program for it, you could find someone and partner with them to get academic credit to learn something that wasn't offered by the schools. And I think that that's something that we could potentially explore. That's an innovative community partnership that would allow our students to really explore a really wide variety of things.
I say definitely, because with the nature of our students' colleges is not the answer for each and every one of them. So to have that option available for them, I feel would really help the students and the community as a whole. That way they can go learn a trade or a skill and getting a good job. Plenty of places around here that's hiring, especially plants and so forth. I think that will benefit our kids who not ready for college or don't have desire for college and so forth. So.
Okay, I think we are through all of the questions that were listed, and so we got through all audience questions, which is really great. So we start with closing. You're allowed 2 minutes for a closing statement, and I think we'll just reverse the order from the opening and start with Tyler and go to the right.
So as a closing statement, I just want to thank everybody else that's up here at this table who's willing to expose themselves and get all of these questions and have to run for office and all to get this job that we don't get paid for over the course of 6 years. So just the fact that everybody's up here and so engaged and smart and has great ideas and loves our kids, I'm just humbled to be sitting here with all of you. And as a side note, I am just sorry for the ire of people and the negative responses in kind of the sphere. It's difficult to be a public figure, and your whole life is out there, and I'm just sorry that you get barbed. I've been barbed too, and it's tough. So I'm just empathizing with all of you as well as you go through this campaign and you try to get hired by thousands of people for this job you really, really want, so you can love on some kids. So thank all of y'all for being up here.
I want to wish the best of luck to all the candidates. I'm probably a good example of someone that got out of high school and wasn't sure what he wanted to do, so I got the job in the factory. And when all my buddies came home from college for Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'm working a night shift in the factory. By January, my decision was made, and it was in concrete. I was not going to work in the factory. I was going to go to college so I could have some freedom and control when I worked and when I didn't work. I succeeded. It's there and it's available for everybody. If you really want to do something, I think that we've got to make sure that we can expose all the opportunities out in that work world for the students that we have, and start them early enough, start talking with them about the work world in the college, in the trades and everything like that. Start it out in the middle school level and talk with the students on what is their future going to include. Make sure that they understand that the opportunities are there. They just have to make the choice.
I just want to thank all of you who hung in there and stayed all the way to the end. Thank you for being an engaged audience and asking very thoughtful questions. This is an important decision that you all will make, and to be informed about your decision is really, really important because it impacts the lives of young people. I would just say that I bring a unique skill set to the board service as an educator and both a social worker. My passion for addressing social justice issues is evident in my engagement in the community and my dedication to students in our school district. In my public service role, I represent and give voice to some of the most vulnerable and underserved populations in our community. In this role, I've provided leadership and advocacy for student achievement, cultural proficiency, restorative justice, and expansive student support networks. I am committed and passionate about promoting positive educational outcomes. I am visible in our schools. I attend presentations. I participate in school-wide events. I have served as a guest speaker. I have been an advocate against racial disproportionality in school discipline and worked tirelessly to educate the board, parents, and our community on the impact of disproportionate discipline on the lives of our African American students, which is a social justice issue that I believe has urgent relevance. I've held the board for responsive oversight on the culture of our district, pushing for improved parent and student communications and relationships. I believe I'm courageous. I have a great deal of integrity. I've held our board and community to a high standard, reinforcing important checks and balances that impact the lives of our students, and consistently advocate for high expectations to ensure all of our young people are in the full fold of participation and reaching their highest academic potential. I'm an engaged and involved public servant and fortunate to be a leader who serves students in this district.
I would first like to say thank you again to the League, women voters, and the participants who stayed these long 3 hours. Also the candidates for their bravery, for serving our district, and commitment. Just encourage everyone to keep the fire going, win or lose, because the lives of our community and young people are dependent on us, regardless of the facts. And for me, the dream still demands strong attitude, strong character, strong integrity, and I will continue doing the work. So thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate this opportunity tonight. Roberta, Shoshana, everyone who worked on this. The reason that I fell in love with Ypsi in the first place is that it really felt like a place where people were engaged, where they were excited, where they wanted to build a great community. And I really appreciate what Dr. Hawkins said earlier about seeing the assets in our district. We have students who are so bright and can really do amazing things. And we have parents who care about their kids, and we have teachers who love our kids and love our district and want to be here and want to support us. And you know, we do have challenges. Like no one's blind to that. But I think that if we look at the potential of our community and of all of the people who are involved in our schools, we really have a huge opportunity to build something truly incredible. So I appreciate everyone who has put themselves out here as a board member, and also everyone who's engaged in our schools. And you know, whether it's as a parent, as a community member, as a grandparent, as a donor to the community foundation or the schools foundation, hint hint, or you know, any other number of ways that we can be engaged. I think that if we all work together, we can. That sounds cheesy, but I really do think that we can. That we have a lot of opportunity, and we're really on the cusp of doing something great.
Thanks everybody for being here. This is a important decision that it impacts children, but it impacts our community, and so I'm glad everybody took the time to come and listen to all of us. I'm really tired, and I bet everybody else is too, so that's all I'm going to say. Thanks.
I think Shoshana has a few closing words.
So thanks to all the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. This forum was a partnership between the League of Women Voters of the Ann Arbor area, the Ypsilanti District Library, and the Riverside Art Center. Thanks so much to the Riverside Art Center for hosting, for Roberta for moderating, for Barb for doing the time, for Anne and Maddie for helping sign in people and direct people where things are going. Thanks to Jesse for helping with the sound. Thanks to Ypsi Live for helping stream it. Thanks to Lauren for covering this for MLive. These forums will be rebroadcast on Channel 19 a number of times between now and the election and are available on demand for streaming on your computer or smartphone. Go to the website LWV Ann Arbor to look for the link to the programs. They're also available on the Ypsi Live Facebook group, and they will be on the League of Women Voters of the Ann Arbor area YouTube page. For additional balanced, nonpartisan information on candidates and ballot issues, go to Vote411 and enter your address. There you will find information on candidates and ballot proposals that will appear on your ballot. You can also pick up those League of Women Voters of Michigan voter guides at the library. Additionally, there is informational literature in the back on that table about the 3 local millages that are going on, the schools, the library, and the parks. Be sure to vote on Tuesday, November 6th. Good night.